All right, guys. So on this episode of Father's Win, we've got a mom who is being held accountable for getting a little spicy.
Fighting for fairness, one dad at a time.
Now, have you ever been in a situation with your co-parent where they are just making excuse after excuse? Well, this is how you handle that.
One that was made March 21st of 26. Judge, I can tell you that the parties have had their session, at least one session with Joy Marlin, and I don't think they reached any specific agreements. I think there are some things that they discussed, and Ms. Marlin sent them with a list of ideas to talk to their attorneys about and see if those things could be ironed out. One of the issues in particular seems to revolve around mother's desire to change the physician, the primary care physician of the child. As this court knows, we went around and around with therapy, trying to change the therapist for the child. We're having the same issue here. Mom wants to change the primary care doctor, unilaterally scheduled an appointment, told dad about it. When he asked about what's this doctor's appointment, what's the situation, her response was, I'm not going to discuss it with you. I told you about the appointment, period. And that is reflected in the Our Family Wizard messages between the parties.
Right. Now let me say allegedly, or I don't know what the best way to say this is, because, I need to lead by example. I don't want to put any of you in a situation where you're saying things on social media that your judge might say, hey, don't put your business out there. So I'm not going to say that I'm going through this situation. I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is, if you have a co-parent who is intentionally making it hard for you to be a part of your child's life and decision-making, when the court has granted you the right to participate in your child's decision-making, that's a form of parental alienation. That's a form of neglect. That's a form of being a bad co-parent. That's a form of going against your parental agreement. Now, I'm not saying you run to court and you file a motion. Back in the day, I was all about that. Man, I'm going to file. But your judge isn't going to appreciate if your docket gets this big. So you write it down, you journal it, and you date it. And especially if you can get it in writing, like through email, like you can prove a pattern that she is not giving you information, or she is not allowing you to participate in medical decision-making, educational decision-making, any kind of decision-making. You write it down. And if you're in a situation where you have a co-parenting situation and the judge has granted you 50-50 joint custody, even if you don't have 50-50, but you have decision-making, this isn't going to work. So let's see what ends up happening.
I think mom wants the child to have a female primary care doctor. My client's not opposed to looking into that, to seeing if they can find some options, maybe a short list each could provide, and then see where we go with that, or have the court decide. But it was a unilateral situation, and that's kind of what that's a situation that seems to be repeating itself. The child did start therapy with Megan Waltner as ordered by the court. The prior order of the court, specifically on the second page of it, required in the second paragraph both parents to reach out to the therapist to provide their information to the therapist's office and schedule an intake. This should be done as soon as possible. The contact information for the therapist was provided in the order. My client did his due diligence. He immediately went and provided his information to the therapist's office, tried to schedule around the child's school.
Okay, I already know where this is going. The dad and the lawyer are doing a great job of just saying, hey, I did my due diligence to do my best to be a part of this decision being made for my child, the specialist that they're going to see. I'm not saying that I've been in this situation before, but I am going to tell you this. You document it, because no parent should let you feel like you don't have the right to make these decisions with them. No one's above the law. All right, guys? So let's get more into this.
She was referencing the prior domestic conciliation order, but even that order says that both parents are to reach out to the therapy office and have an intake with the therapist so that they get both sides of the perspective. And, he just learned, I think, for the first time that she appears to be working every Saturday and Sunday, which is concerning, because if she's getting this child every other weekend and she's working Saturday and Sunday, we're not sure what's going on there. If the child's just hanging out with grandma, or...
Now, I'm not telling you that I'm in this same situation. I'm not going to say that. But what I'm going to tell you is this. There's something called first right of refusal. Let's break down the etymology of what that is. You've got a right to refuse having your child for extra time. You have a right to refuse having your child for extra time. So mom gets the child every weekend, but we're finding out that every other weekend, mom is working both Saturday and Sunday. Now, shout out to mom. She's doing what she's got to do to make some money. Okay, we get it. But she should be calling dad and saying, hey, do you want to keep our child for those days? Because I'm not even going to be home. I'm giving you a right to refuse extra time. Your co-parents usually never do this. At least allegedly. So that should be written down also, documented. First right of refusal wasn't given to me, and let it be up to your judge. Now, if your parental agreement doesn't mention first right of refusal, you might not have a stake in there. But if it does, something you need to document. Let's keep going.
She is taking this child, for example, she just took the child without telling dad, without providing any information, or even telling dad the child was sick, has taken the child several times to an emergency room or to a minor emergency center without any conversation with dad, without, she's not sharing more information, she's sharing less information with dad, and she's...
Okay, let me stop it right there. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. When your ex-wife or when your child's mom starts feeling a little spicy about you, she's going to try to take power away from you. Guys, let's go back to the root of all this. Eve bit the apple. Time out. Who doesn't like you anymore is going to try and take the power, the influence that you had over your children away from you. And it starts with these microaggressions by not telling you when your kid goes to the doctor. I'm not saying this happened to me, but what I'm telling you is that dad's doing a great job of getting this on the books. Let's see what else happens.
And I think it seems to my client like they're going backwards instead of forwards at this point. So it appears that we may just need to set a trial date.
There's a song, I forgot the guy who raps it, but the song is Take It to Trial. Take it to trial. Now, life is stressful enough. You don't want to go to court. You don't want to, what Rick Ross say? I don't want to go to court. Like, who wants to go to court? But when you're fighting for your kids, guys, sometimes if it's getting too cantankerous, you got to take it there. Here we go.
His wife, which is Paley's stepmother, in like IEP meetings, things like that, because she does have input in the struggles that she might see with Paisley, and also she participates, in working with her on homework, things like that. That has never been an issue before. I think mom's never had an objection to that. So this objection seems to be a bit out of left field. Nevertheless, he's okay with that. In addition, there was a provision to change the child's primary care physician to a female doctor. She's been with the same PCP for 6 years. I think mom wants to change the doctor because of some trauma that she experienced when she was younger.
Okay, let's stop right there. The lawyer's doing a really good job, because what is happening is the mom is showing her hand. She's pretty much saying, well, I'm uncomfortable with stepmom having any input in this child's life, even though it seems like stepmom is a positive influence over the child. Mom's also saying, I'm uncomfortable with daughter seeing this type of doctor because of something that happened to me, factoring in what makes her comfortable and not what makes your child comfortable, and basing her parenting around that. If you can prove that, that is something worth telling the judge. Let's keep going.
And my client's not necessarily opposed to that, but he thinks that it should not just be mom picks the doctor and then the child goes. He also thinks that it should be minimally invasive with her school schedule. So if there are weekend or evening or late afternoon appointments, those should be taken. He does object to it being anywhere that grandmother or great grandmother of the child had previously worked. And
Now that's smart. That's very smart. Because what he's saying is, I don't want there to be any biases toward me when my daughter goes to this school. So I am not okay with any of the schools being where my child's mom or grandmother have any kind of history. And that is super smart, guys. And that's something I want you guys to start thinking about when you're talking to these judges about your parental agreements. because it is not okay when you walk into that school for the principal, for the teacher, for the lunch lady and crossing guard to look at you crazy because mom got there first or mom knows people who work there. And all they got was their side of the story. Now you are bad news and you're not treated with a lot of respect when you're walking onto that campus. I'll be honest with you guys, that happens to me every time I go to my daughter's school. The level of disrespect that I have encountered there has been egregious. And it's very hard to prove something like that. But it's happening. And I don't want that for any of you guys. So let's see what else is going on here.
Tag some. She then was able to schedule one for this next week, but it's at 3:00 on a Monday. And so if dad doesn't let my client pick up the child to take the child to this therapy intake, then she's very limited on her ability to comply with if dad doesn't let her do that on his time, and it has to fall on every other weekend. My client doesn't work every single Friday.
Okay, stop, because this lawyer is already pissing me off. The reason why I'm frustrated is because I've heard this before. I live this, literally. If you can't get the child to therapy during your time with the child, then let the dad do it. If you're incapable of doing it, and that doesn't mean you're a bad parent, but if you're incapable of doing something, lean on the other parent to do it. Or do you just demand to have all of the power and the authority? Honestly, guys, I can't even listen to the mom's testimony, to be honest with you. Let's keep going.
And I just did double check my emails. The only email I got from Lacey Gilmore was asking about some records from a business record subpoena. So I did not get an email from her on Friday with exhibits. I can certainly talk to my client about those, but I think
Also, please don't think that your child's mom lawyer is above line.
Other than possibly addressing the issue that my client's having with the therapy, I think the rest of it probably needs to go to evidence, would be my thought.
All
Judge,
right.
I think some of the confusion about the exhibits may be that the email she would have received didn't come from me. It would have came from my assistant. It would have come from legal assistant at pinnaclelaw316.com. Also, the emails or the OFW messages that we told the court, those are very recent messages in their entirety. What she's talking about is a message from many, many moons ago that was sent by my client to mom during a period of time where they were going around and around about therapy. He has never told her she's never going to be able to pick up the child for therapy when they're trying to jointly do therapy. But it's his understanding that the child does not have to be present for the parental intake, but for insurance purposes, that there are certain, like a child would have to be present for a percentage of the time in some situations.
Got it. Boom. Closed. I can almost guarantee this judge has heard all that he needs to hear. You see mom and her little lawyer explain in the background, I think they got us. Ultimately, what's going on here is dad is like, all you're doing is a simple intake form. You just need to go and fill out paperwork. Our child doesn't need to be there for that first time that you go. And you're making it seem like it's impossible to get done. See, when you're in family court, guys, treat it like you're talking to your dad. Doesn't matter if your judge is a man or a woman, same level of respect, of course, but just act like you're talking to your dad. You remember growing up with your dad? Your dad doesn't really care about the minor details. Just tell him the point of your message. Dad, I ditched school today and I got detention for a week. That's it. I don't really care why you ditched. You shouldn't have ditched. And if why you ditched is going to lead to another problem, we'll deal with that right after this. Mom, she's going to want to know all the little minor details. Well, what were you thinking? What were you doing? Did you eat breakfast this morning? Who's a bad influence on you? Nope, not dad. Why'd you ditch school? This is what we're going to do about it. And this is going to be the punishment that you're going to receive for doing something so dumb. A judge is the same way in family court, guys. Stick to the facts, lay it down, get in and get out. No emotion. You've noticed dad hasn't spoken. This is how you present yourself in family court. Here we go. Let's see what ends up happening.
Realize how difficult it is to schedule with professionals. And if that's all that's available to her, then I would expect Mr. Hayes to accommodate it, but it would just be for purposes of the intake appointment and then return the child to Mr. Hayes. But that appointment obviously needs to get set up, and I don't want it to interfere with school. But she can pick her up from school and then go to the appointment. How far apart the school is from the therapist, I don't know.
And if it's right at the end of the day but involves missing like an hour of school or as little as possible, is that okay?
Why? Why is that necessary?
I don't know that she has appointments beyond 4:15.
She does. I think she has 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock appointments.
Okay.
I will expect that the effort be made to try to schedule it where she's just doing the regular pickup from school at the end of the school day and then going to the therapy appointment, do the intake appointment with the child, return the child to Mr. Hayes.
Knock it out.
That's what the court contemplates. Further, I did want to give some direction to the parties regarding the primary care physician. Apparently, there's a long-term relationship here with the current primary care physician. Court will order that the parties remain with that primary care physician unless and until they agree on a different one. But it would need agreement of the parties. And I would ask Mr. Hayes to at least be open-minded. Apparently he is, to a transition to a new primary care physician, but I think it's one that the parties need to agree on. They need to be on the same page if they're going to change doctors. All right. Obviously, there appear to be some other issues that need to be resolved through an evidentiary hearing.
Okay, so ultimately, when you have a co-parent and they have a job and that's interfering with parental time or co-parenting, it's okay to let that be known. Now, of course, you don't want to be a jerk about it. You know, people have to earn a living, but that shouldn't substitute your ability to parent or their ability to be a co-parent. So at the end of the day, guys, do your best to have a amicable relationship with your co-parent, but if she is just refusing to be fair, take it to trial. What do you guys think? Drop a comment. Is dad being too hard on mom? Is mom being reasonable? Is she communicating well? Or is she intentionally being vague? I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.
My son needs me.
You mean our son, darn it.